Dear Mr. Williams, after 30 years of service, I am writing to inform you of my retirement. My last day will be Friday, September 29th, 2023. It has been the greatest honor of my life to work for Williams Corporation. Thank you for the opportunity. With respect, Robert Martinez. Night Janitor. Robert read the letter 3 times. Felt too simple, too small. How do you summarize 30 years in 4 sentences? How do you say goodbye to the place that gave your life meaning? But Robert did not want a big farewell party. He did not want speeches or celebrations. He wanted to leave the way he had worked, quietly, humbly, without fuss. He would clean his last night, leave the building sparkling as always, and disappear like morning mist. James would find the letter on his desk. Maybe he would be sad. Maybe he would hire a new janitor. Life would go on. That was okay. That was how it should be. Robert placed the letter in an envelope, sealed it, and wrote Mr. James Williams, CEO, on the front. He walked slowly to the elevator, rode up to the 20th floor, and slid the envelope under James's office door. Then Robert left the building and went home. He cooked breakfast for himself, eggs and toast. He sat in his small kitchen and looked out the window at the sunrise. Maria, he whispered to his wife who had been gone for 30 years. I did it. I raised our daughter. I helped a good man become great. I did my best with the life you left me. I hope I made you proud. The sun continued to rise, golden and beautiful. Robert felt something he had not felt in decades. Not happiness, not sadness, but peace. Deep, quiet peace. He did not know that his letter would change everything. He did not know that James would refuse to let him disappear quietly. He did not know that in 2 weeks, he would be standing on a stage in front of 300 employees, listening to secrets he thought would stay buried forever. All Robert knew in that moment was this: he had lived a good life. He had loved deeply. He had served faithfully. And now, finally, he could rest. The janitor who cleaned the same office for 30 years was ready to say goodbye. But the CEO had very different plans. Plans that would shock everyone. Plans that would reveal a mystery 30 years in the making. Plans that would prove that no good deed, no matter how secret, stays hidden forever. Because the universe has a strange way of bringing truth to light. And Robert's truth was about to shine brighter than 1,000 suns. Robert woke up on a Tuesday morning in September 2023, and his hands would not stop shaking. Not from fear, not from cold, but from pain. Deep, burning pain that shot through his fingers like lightning. He tried to grip his coffee cup. It slipped and shattered on the floor. Brown liquid spread across the kitchen tiles, the same tiles he had cleaned 1,000 times in his own small apartment. But this morning, he just stared at the mess, unable to bend down to clean it. Papa, are you okay? Sophie rushed into the kitchen. She was 37 years old now, a successful lawyer with her own family. But she still called him Papa, and she still worried about him constantly. I'm fine, mihija. Just clumsy this morning, Robert lied, hiding his trembling hands behind his back. But Sophie knew. She had been watching her father decline for months. The way he walked slower. The way he winced when he bent down. The way he came home from work at 7 a.m. and immediately collapsed into bed, too exhausted to even eat breakfast. Papa, you need to see a doctor, Sophie said, kneeling to clean up the broken cup. I already did. Last week. He said it's arthritis. Old age, nothing serious. Nothing serious? Sophie stood up, her voice rising. Papa, you're 70 years old. You work from 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. cleaning a 20-floor building. Your body is breaking down. When are you going to stop? Robert looked at his daughter. When did she become so tall, so strong, so successful? Felt like yesterday she was 7 years old, asking him where Mama went. Now she had 2 children of her own, a beautiful house, a husband who loved her. Everything Robert had worked for. I'm okay, Sophie. I'm still strong enough. No, Papa, you're not. Sophie's eyes filled with tears. Last week, I visited you at work. I wanted to surprise you. Do you know what I saw? I saw you struggling to carry a mop bucket up the stairs because the elevator was broken. I saw you sitting on the floor, breathing heavy, holding your chest. Papa, I thought you were having a heart attack. Robert looked down. He remembered that moment. The chest pain, the dizziness, the fear that he might die right there on the stairs, and nobody would find him until morning. I've worked my whole life, Robert said quietly. If I stop working, what am I? Who am I? Sophie grabbed her father's trembling hands gently. You're my papa. You're my children's abuelo. You're a man who sacrificed everything to raise me alone after Mama died. You're a man who worked 3 jobs to send me to college. You don't have to prove your worth anymore, Papa. You've already proven it 1,000 times over. Robert felt something break inside his chest. Not his heart, but his pride. The pride that kept him working when his body screamed for rest. The pride that said a man's value is measured by his labor. What will I do if I don't work? Robert whispered, a tear rolling down his weathered cheek. How will I fill my days? You'll rest, Papa. You'll play with your grandchildren. You'll sit in the garden and read the books you never had time to read. You'll live, Papa. Actually live, not just survive. That conversation haunted Robert for days. He tried to ignore it. He went to work the next night and the night after that. But his body would not let him forget. On Friday night, Robert was cleaning the 10th floor when his back suddenly seized up. Pain exploded through his spine like a bomb. He fell to his knees, gasping, unable to move. For 20 minutes, he stayed there on the cold floor, praying for the pain to pass. Eventually, it did. But Robert knew. He knew that one day soon, he would fall and not be able to get back up. He would hurt himself badly, maybe permanently. And then what? He would become a burden to Sophie, to his grandchildren, to everyone. That night, after work, Robert sat in the empty Williams Corporation lobby as the sun rose. He looked around at the building he had cleaned for 30 years. Every floor, every window, every corner. He knew this building better than he knew his own apartment. He thought about James. Young James, crying at his desk in 1993. Strong James, celebrating victories in 2005. Wise James, leading the company with confidence in 2020. Robert had watched him grow from a broken boy into a powerful man. That had been Robert's real job. Not cleaning, but supporting, protecting, believing. But all stories have endings, even beautiful ones. Robert pulled out a piece of paper from his pocket and a pen. His hand shook as he wrote, making the letters crooked and uneven. That night, when Robert came to clean, James was dancing around the office. Robert, did you hear? An anonymous investor saved us. Can you believe it? God is real, Robert. Miracles are real. Robert smiled and started mopping. Yes, sir. Miracles are very real. I am happy for you. I wish I knew who sent the money, James said. I would thank them every day for the rest of my life. They saved everything. They saved all those families who depend on this company. Robert's eyes got wet, but he kept mopping. Maybe they don't want thanks, sir. Maybe seeing you succeed is enough thanks for them. James never knew. For 26 years, he never knew that his miracle wore a janitor's uniform. But Robert's hidden help still was not finished. In 1999, Robert was emptying the trash in the boardroom when he found something strange. Papers in the trash, but they were not crumpled. They were neatly folded and hidden under other garbage. Robert's instincts told him something was wrong. He pulled out the papers and read them. His blood ran cold. They were confidential company documents, financial records, client lists. Someone was stealing company secrets. Robert checked whose office this trash came from. Board member Thomas Richardson. Robert did not sleep that night. He took the documents and made copies at a 24-hour print shop, using his own money. Then he put the originals back in Thomas's office trash before anyone noticed they were gone. The next night, Robert left the copied documents on James's desk with a simple note. Check your boardroom trash cans more carefully. Not everyone at your table wants you to succeed. A friend. James found the documents and launched an investigation. Thomas Richardson was arrested for corporate espionage. He was trying to sell Williams Corporation's secrets to their competitor for $500,000. Again, James never knew it was Robert who saved him. In 2003, Robert overheard two employees talking in the bathroom. He was cleaning the stalls, invisible as always. The employees did not know he was there. "Tomorrow night, we delete all the backup files for the Henderson project," one man whispered. "When the presentation fails, James will look incompetent. The board will fire him. Then our guy takes over as CEO, and we get our promotions." Robert's heart pounded. The Henderson project was worth $10 million. If it failed, the company would be destroyed. That night, Robert did not clean. Instead, he went to the IT department and copied all the backup files onto external hard drives. He worked until 5 a.m., his old fingers cramping, but he finished. The next day, just as the employees planned, all the files were deleted. But James had the backups. The presentation succeeded. The saboteurs were caught and fired. James thought the IT department had made extra backups. The IT department thought James had asked for extra backups. Nobody thought about the 70-year-old janitor working all night to save the company. Year after year, Robert protected James in secret. He returned money when times were hard. He found evidence of betrayal. He warned of dangers. He sacrificed everything he had and asked for nothing in return. All while mopping floors and cleaning toilets, invisible to everyone. But here is the truth that Robert understood and James did not. Real love is not loud. Real sacrifice does not demand recognition. Real heroes do not wear capes. Sometimes they wear janitor uniforms and carry mop buckets. Robert gave everything because that is what love does. Not romantic love, not family love, but the pure love of one human being seeing another human being struggle and deciding to carry part of their weight. And for 30 years, Robert carried that weight in silence. Until today, when all the secrets would finally be revealed. There are things that happen in the dark that the light never sees. Secret sacrifices, hidden gifts, silent heroism. This is the story of what Robert did when nobody was watching. It was December 1994. Williams Corporation had survived one full year under James's leadership, but barely. The company was like a patient in intensive care, alive, but not healing. James had managed to keep 40 employees, but he could not afford to pay them properly. That cold Friday evening, James called all the employees into the main hall. His face was pale. His hands were shaking. Everyone knew what was coming. "I am sorry," James said, his voice cracking. "I cannot pay full salaries this month. I can only pay half. I know you have families. I know you have bills. I am so sorry. If you want to leave and find another job, I will understand. I will even write you recommendation letters." The room was silent. Some employees cried. Others looked angry. A few walked out immediately, never to return. James stood there, feeling like the biggest failure in the world. That night, Robert came to clean as usual. He found James sitting in the dark, staring at nothing. "Bad day, sir?" Robert asked gently. James told him everything. "I am paying people half salaries, Robert." "Half? How can they feed their children with half? I am destroying lives." Robert listened quietly. He did not say anything comforting this time. He just nodded and continued cleaning. But inside his heart, Robert made a decision. A decision that would cost him everything. The next morning, Robert went to the company accountant's office. It was Saturday, but the accountant was working overtime trying to manage the financial crisis. "Excuse me, ma'am," Robert said nervously. "I am Robert, the night janitor." "Yes? What do you need?" the accountant asked, barely looking up from her calculator. "I heard the company is having money problems. I want to help. Can you please take half of my salary and put it back into the company account? Just don't tell Mr. Williams. Please." The accountant looked up, shocked. "What? Robert, you make $8 an hour. That's barely anything. You want to give back half?" "Yes, ma'am. I don't need much. My daughter and I, we eat simple food. We will be okay. Please, just do it." The accountant's eyes filled with tears. "Robert, that is incredibly kind. But, please, Robert interrupted. Mr. Williams is a good man. He is trying his best. I want to help. This is the only way I can help. So it was done. Every month for the next 6 months, Robert gave back half his paycheck. He made $4 an hour instead of 8. He and Sophie ate rice and beans for dinner. They wore old clothes. They never bought anything extra. But they survived. James never knew. The money just appeared in the company account marked as Anonymous Employee Contribution. James thought someone rich was helping him. He never imagined it was the janitor barely making enough to eat. But Robert's secret help did not stop there. In 1997, the real crisis came. The bank wanted all their money back immediately, $6 million, or they would take the building. James had tried everything. He had begged investors. He had applied for loans. Everyone said no. The company had 1 month before it would die. James stopped coming to the office. He was too ashamed, too defeated. For 3 days he stayed home, lying in bed, staring at the ceiling. On the 3rd night, Robert did not go to work. Instead, he went to the bank where he kept his small savings. He asked to close his account. "Mr. Martinez, you have $45,000 here," the bank teller said. "This is from selling your house last year, correct? Are you sure you want to withdraw everything?" Robert's hands shook as he signed the papers. That $45,000 was everything he had in the world. The house he sold was the house where his wife had lived, where Sophie was born, where all his memories lived. He had sold it last year because he could not afford the mortgage anymore. He planned to use this money to buy a small apartment someday, to give Sophie a real home again. But James needed it more. Robert took the money in cash. He put it in an envelope. He wrote on the envelope, "From someone who believes in second chances. Save your company. Pay me back when you can. No rush. No interest." Then Robert did something clever. He mailed the envelope from a different city. He used a fake return address. He made sure nobody could trace it back to him. 3 days later, James came running into the office, screaming with joy, "We are saved! We are saved! Someone sent us money. An anonymous investor. $45,000. The employees cheered. The accountant cried with relief. Everyone celebrated. They had no idea that their miracle came from a janitor who now lived in a tiny apartment with his daughter, sleeping on a mattress on the floor because he sold his bed to buy food. "I went home to my daughter," Robert continued. "Little Sophie was 7 years old. She asked me, 'Papa, where's Mama?' And I had to tell her. I had to watch her little heart break into pieces. That night, sir, I wanted to stop existing. The pain was too big." Robert's eyes were wet, but his voice stayed strong. "But then Sophie climbed into my lap. She put her tiny hand on my face and said, 'Papa, Mama told me that when one door closes, God is protecting us from something bad. Maybe a better door will open.' She was 7 years old, sir. But she understood something I had forgotten." "What was that?" James asked softly. "Closed doors are not always punishment. Sometimes they are protection. Maybe this bank is saying no because a better solution is coming. Maybe this closed door is protecting you from something you cannot see yet." James felt chills run down his spine. But what if no other door opens? What if this is just the end? Robert stood up and went back to cleaning the windows. "Sir, do you know what I learned about endings? They are just new beginnings wearing a disguise. Your father's company ending might mean your own company beginning. His way ending might mean your way beginning." "You think I should let the company die?" James asked, confused. "No, sir. I think you should stop being afraid of it dying. Fear makes you weak. Acceptance makes you strong. If the company dies, you will build another one. If it lives, you will make it better. Either way, you will be okay. That is the truth fear does not want you to know." Night after night, the conversations continued. James would share his daily battles. Robert would share his simple wisdom. The CEO learned from the janitor. The broken learned from the survivor. The lost learned from the found. On the 15th night, something beautiful happened. James had successfully fired a board member who was stealing company money. It was the first time he had shown real power. "I did what you said, Robert. I stopped being afraid. I confronted him with proof. I fired him in front of everyone." They all looked shocked that I had the guts to do it. Robert nodded with pride. "Not everyone deserves a seat at your table, sir. Some people come to eat. Others come to poison the food. You are learning to see the difference." "Where did you learn all this wisdom, Robert?" James asked. "Did you read it in books?" Robert laughed. "Books? Sir, I barely finished high school. My wisdom comes from pain. Pain is the best teacher. It gives the test first, then the lesson. You never forget lessons learned in pain." By the 30th night, their relationship had completely transformed. James no longer saw Robert as just a janitor. Robert was his mentor, his counselor, his friend. The only person in the building who told him the truth without wanting something in return. And Robert no longer saw James as just his boss. He saw him as the son he never had. A young man with potential drowning in pressure. A good heart trapped in a bad situation. One night, James asked the question that had been bothering him for weeks. "Robert, why do you help me? You owe me nothing. I am just your boss. You could clean the office and leave. Why do you stay and talk to me?" Robert stopped mopping and looked directly at James. "Sir, when my wife was dying, a stranger paid for her medicine for 1 month. I never found out who it was. I could not thank them. So I decided something. I would help the next person God put in my path who needed help. That person was you." "But I don't need medicine," James said. "No, sir. You need something medicine cannot give. You need hope. You need to believe in yourself. You need someone to see your value when you cannot see it yourself. That is what I give you. Not because you pay me, not because you are my boss, but because when God puts someone in your path who is drowning, you throw them a rope. You do not ask questions. You just throw the rope." James felt tears forming in his eyes. "You have saved my life, Robert. Multiple times. I don't know how to repay you." Robert smiled and continued mopping. "You repay me by surviving, sir. You repay me by becoming the man you are meant to be. You repay me by remembering this feeling when you are powerful and successful. Remember how it felt to be broken. Then help the next broken person you meet." Those words settled deep into James's heart. He would never forget them. Month after month, year after year, the midnight conversations continued. Nobody knew about them. Not the employees. Not the board members. Not even James's own mother. It was their secret, their sacred space. The place where a CEO became human and a janitor became a king. Robert never asked for a promotion. Never asked for a raise. Never asked for recognition. He just showed up every night, cleaned the office, and shared his wisdom. And James? He kept fighting, kept learning, kept growing. The company slowly started to recover. Something strange started happening at Williams Corporation. Every night, the lights in the CEO's office stayed on until midnight. The security guards noticed it. The night shift workers whispered about it. But nobody knew the real reason why. James Williams had changed his entire schedule. He used to leave the office at 6 p.m., exhausted and defeated. Now he worked until 10 p.m., then pretended to leave. He would walk to the parking lot, wave goodbye to the security guard, then sneak back in through the side entrance. Why? Because Robert came to clean at 10:30 p.m., and James needed those conversations more than he needed sleep. The first week, James felt embarrassed. Here he was, a CEO with a business degree, waiting desperately to talk to a janitor. What would people think? What would the board members say if they knew? But then James realized something powerful. He did not care anymore. Pride was expensive and he could not afford it. Robert's words had saved him from giving up. Maybe they could save him from failing too. On the second night, Robert entered the office with his cleaning bucket and stopped when he saw James still sitting there. "Sir, you are still here?" Robert asked, surprised. "I had more work to do," James lied. The truth was he had been staring at the clock, waiting. Robert smiled knowingly, like he could see right through the lie, but said nothing. He started cleaning the bookshelves while James pretended to read documents. After a few minutes of silence, James could not hold it anymore. "Robert, can I ask you something?" "Of course, sir." "Yesterday you said strong trees grow roots in storms. But what if the storm is too strong? What if it breaks the tree?" Robert stopped dusting and thought for a moment. "Sir, have you ever seen a tree after a big storm?" "Yes. The weak trees fall down, yes. But do you know why they fall? Not because the storm was too strong. They fall because their roots were shallow. They grew in easy times, so they never learned to dig deep. The trees that survive are not the biggest or the strongest. They are the ones that knew hard times before and built roots that go deep into the earth." James wrote this down in his notebook. He had started keeping a small journal of things Robert said. "So you are saying I need to build deeper roots?" "You are already building them, sir," Robert said, going back to cleaning. "Every problem you face today is teaching your roots to go deeper. In 5 years, when bigger storms come, you will not fall. You will bend, but you will not break." That night, James made a decision. He would stop hiding from the board members. He would stop being afraid of their judgment. He would dig his roots deeper. The third night, James had faced his first big victory. He had convinced a client to stay with the company by offering them a better deal. It was not much, but it was something. "Robert," James said excitedly when the janitor arrived. "I did it. I saved the Johnson account." Robert's face broke into a huge smile. "That is wonderful, sir. See? One piece of the chicken at a time." They both laughed. It became their inside joke. The chicken philosophy. But the fourth night was different. James had terrible news. The bank had rejected his loan application. Without that money, the company would die in 3 weeks. James was not crying this time, but he looked hollow. Empty. "It's over, Robert. I tried everything. The bank said no. I have no more options." Robert sat down in the chair across from James's desk. He had never sat before, always stood respectfully. But tonight he sat like they were equals, like they were friends. "Sir, let me tell you about the night my wife died," Robert said quietly. "The doctor came out and said, 'I am sorry. We did everything we could.' In that moment, I felt like my life was over. I thought, how can I breathe without her? How can I live?" James listened, his own problems suddenly feeling smaller. "Well, Robert," James said, wiping his face with his sleeve, "you are seeing the CEO of this company at his absolute worst, crying like a baby. Probably not what you expected on your first night." Robert shook his head. "I see a young man carrying a mountain on his back. That is not weakness, sir. That is courage. Weak men run away. You are still here, still fighting. That means something." James felt something crack inside his chest. When was the last time someone said something kind to him? When was the last time someone saw him as more than just the kid who can't fill his father's shoes? "Everything is falling apart, Robert," James admitted. "The company is drowning in debt. The board wants me gone. Clients don't trust me. I don't even trust myself anymore." Robert picked up a trash can and started emptying it, continuing his work while he talked. "Can I tell you something, sir? 3 months ago, my wife died. Cancer. The hospital took all our money. I could not even afford her funeral. I have a 7-year-old daughter at home. Before tonight, I had no job, no money, no hope." James sat up straighter, listening. "Today, I got this janitor job," Robert continued. $8 an hour. Most people would laugh at that. $8 an hour to clean toilets and mop floors. But you know what I felt when I got this job? Joy. Pure joy. Because $8 an hour means my daughter eats tomorrow. It means I can pay rent. It means we survive another day. Robert stopped cleaning and looked directly at James. "You think you have lost everything, sir? You still have this building. You still have employees. You still have a chance to fight. I lost my wife forever. There is no fighting that. No fixing that. But I am still here. Still breathing. Still trying." James felt ashamed. Here he was, sitting in a luxury office, crying about business problems. while this janitor had lost everything that truly mattered and still found strength to smile. "How do you do it?" James asked. "How do you keep going when everything falls apart?" Robert smiled. "One step at a time, sir. You cannot eat a whole chicken in one bite. You cut it into pieces. You eat one piece, then another, then another. Before you know it, the chicken is gone." "But what if I fail?" James whispered. "What if I lose the company? What if I destroy everything my father built?" Robert put down his mop and walked closer. "Sir, your father did not build this company so it would live forever. He built it to teach you how to build. Even if this company falls, you will know how to build another one. The real inheritance is not the building. It is the strength in your blood." For the first time in months, James felt a tiny spark of hope. Not confidence, not certainty, just hope. Just enough light to see one step ahead. "Thank you, Robert," James said quietly. "I don't know why you took time to talk to a stranger having a breakdown, but thank you." Robert went back to cleaning. "We are all strangers until we are not, sir. Now you should go home. Sleep. Tomorrow is another battle. You need rest to fight it." James stood up. His legs felt weak, but he stood. He gathered his papers. He put on his coat. As he walked to the door, he turned back. "Robert, will you be here tomorrow night?" "Yes, sir. Every night. This is my job." "Good," James said. "That's good." James went home that night and slept for the first time in weeks. He dreamed of storms and trees with deep roots. He dreamed of chickens being eaten one bite at a time. He dreamed of hope. He had no idea that the janitor he met tonight would become the most important person in his life. He had no idea that their conversation was just the beginning of a 30-year miracle. All he knew was that for the first time since his father died, he did not feel completely alone. And sometimes not feeling alone is enough to survive one more day. James Williams sat in his father's chair, his chair now, and felt like a complete fraud. The leather was still warm from where his father used to sit. The smell of his father's cologne still lingered in the office. But his father was gone, buried 3 months ago, and James was drowning. He was only 25 years old. Just last year, he was partying with friends in college. He studied business, yes, but studying something and living it are two completely different things. His father had built Williams Corporation from nothing. 30 years of hard work, smart decisions, and respect. Now it was all on James's shoulders, and those shoulders were breaking. The board meeting that morning had been a disaster. James sat at the head of the long table, surrounded by men twice his age. These men had worked with his father for decades. They looked at James like he was a child playing dress-up in daddy's clothes. "Mr. Williams," one board member said, his voice dripping with fake respect, "your father would never have made such a careless decision. You just approved a contract without reading the fine print. Do you realize you just cost us $2 million? James felt his face turn red. He had been so tired, so overwhelmed. He just signed where they told him to sign. He trusted them. That was his mistake. Another board member leaned forward. "Perhaps you should consider stepping down, James. Let someone with more experience run things. You could still be on the board, just not as CEO." They wanted him gone. These vultures were circling, waiting for him to fail. Some of them had already started their own plans to take over the company. James knew it, but he could not prove it. After the meeting, James locked himself in his office. He looked at the picture of his father on the desk. "Dad, I'm sorry," he whispered. "I'm not strong like you. I don't know what I'm doing." The problems were everywhere, like 1,000 knives cutting him from all directions. The company owed $6 million to the bank. 3 major clients had just canceled their contracts because they did not trust the kid CEO. 50 employees were threatening to quit because there were rumors the company was going bankrupt. And the worst part? The rumors were true. Williams Corporation was dying, and James had no idea how to save it. Every night, James stayed late in the office. He read files until his eyes burned. He made phone calls until his voice was hoarse. He tried to understand accounting, marketing, operations, everything. But it was too much, too fast, too overwhelming. His girlfriend left him last week. "You're married to that company, not to me," she said as she walked out. His friends stopped calling because he never had time for them anymore. His mother was worried sick, calling him every day. "James, you look terrible. You need to eat. You need to sleep." But how could he sleep when everything was falling apart? How could he eat when every bite felt like sand in his mouth? Tonight was especially bad. James had just received a letter from the bank. They wanted their money in 30 days or they would take the company building. The building his father had bought with his own hands, brick by brick, sacrifice by sacrifice. James put his head down on the desk and cried. Not silent tears, but loud, painful sobs that came from deep in his chest. He cried for his father who trusted him with everything. He cried for the employees who depended on him. He cried for himself, for being so weak, so stupid, so useless. "I can't do this," James said out loud to the empty office. "I just can't. Dad, I'm so sorry. I'm going to lose everything you built." He thought about quitting, just walking away, letting the board take over, letting the company die. At least then the pressure would stop. At least then he could breathe again. James did not hear the door open. He did not hear the quiet footsteps. He was too lost in his own pain, his own failure, his own shame. Then he felt it. A hand on his shoulder. Gentle but strong. Warm but respectful. James looked up, tears still streaming down his face. There stood a man in a blue janitor uniform. He was older, maybe 40, with kind eyes and rough hands. The man did not look shocked or uncomfortable seeing the CEO crying. He looked understanding. "Sir," the janitor said softly, "storms don't last forever. The darkest night always ends with sunrise. And strong trees don't grow in sunshine. They grow deep roots in storms." James stared at this man. These were not empty words. These were words spoken by someone who knew real pain, real struggle, real survival. "Who are you?" James asked, his voice shaking. "Robert, sir. I am the new janitor. I just started today." "Sir," Robert said softly, "I don't know your problem, but I know this. Storms don't last forever. The darkest night always ends with sunrise. And strong trees don't grow in sunshine. They grow deep roots in storms." The young man stared at Robert. Nobody had spoken to him like this before. Not with advice from books, but with wisdom from real pain. "What is your name?" the young man asked. "Robert, sir. I am the new janitor." "I am James," the young man said. "James Williams. I own this company. Well, my father did. He died 2 months ago and left it to me. But I don't know what I am doing. Everything is falling apart. I am going to lose everything." Robert nodded slowly. "Losing everything teaches you what truly matters. Maybe you are not losing. Maybe you are learning." James looked at Robert with wonder. Who was this janitor? How could a simple cleaning man speak such powerful words? Robert smiled gently. "I should finish cleaning now, sir. You should go home and sleep. Tomorrow will come whether you worry or not. Better to meet it with rest." Robert finished cleaning the office. He made everything perfect. The desk shined. The windows sparkled. The floor looked brand new. As Robert was leaving, James called out, "Robert, will you be here tomorrow night?" Robert turned around. "Yes, sir. I will be here every night. This is my job now." James nodded, something like hope appearing in his tired eyes. "Good. That's good." Robert left and went home as the sun was rising. He bought fresh bread and eggs with his first night's pay. He cooked breakfast for Sophie. She hugged him tight. "Papa, you smell like cleaning soap." Sophie laughed. "That is the smell of honest work, my angel," Robert said, kissing her head. Robert did not know it then, but that night was the beginning of something extraordinary. He thought he was just a simple janitor who got lucky with a job. He had no idea that he had just met the person whose life he would change forever. And he had no idea that 30 years later, he would be standing on a stage while that same young man revealed his mystery to the world. Robert Martinez stood frozen on that stage, completely confused. But his mind went back 30 years to where it all began. To the day when he was a completely different man. It was March 15th, 1993. Robert was 40 years old. He sat alone in his small kitchen, staring at a newspaper. His hands were rough and tired. His heart was broken into a million pieces. 3 months ago, his wife Maria had died from cancer. She was only 38 years old. The hospital bills took all their savings. Everything was gone. The only thing Robert had left was his 7-year-old daughter, Sophie. She was sleeping in the next room, and she was hungry. Robert had no job. He had no money. He had knocked on 50 doors looking for work, but nobody wanted to hire him. He was too old, they said. He had no college degree, they said. He had no special skills, they said. But that morning, Robert saw something in the newspaper. A small advertisement at the bottom of the page. Janitor needed. Night shift. Williams Corporation. Call now. Robert's hands shook as he dialed the number. A woman answered. Hello, I am calling about the janitor job, Robert said quietly. Can you start tonight? The woman asked. Yes, I can, Robert almost shouted. Come to the Williams building at 9 p.m. Bring your ID. The pay is very low, just $8 per hour. Is that okay? $8 per hour. It was almost nothing, but it was something. Robert could feed Sophie. That was all that mattered. Yes, that is perfect. Thank you. Thank you so much, Robert said, tears running down his face. That night, Robert put on his only clean shirt. He kissed sleeping Sophie on the forehead. His neighbor, Mrs. Chun, had agreed to watch her during the night shifts. Robert walked to the bus stop in the cold, dark night. The Williams Corporation building was huge and beautiful. 20 floors of glass and steel. Robert felt very small standing in front of it. He walked to the back entrance where the guard was waiting. You are the new janitor? The guard asked. Yes, sir. I am Robert. The guard handed him a blue uniform and a bucket with cleaning supplies. Your job is simple. Clean all 20 floors. Mop the floors. Empty the trash. Clean the bathrooms. Clean the windows. Everything must be perfect before 6 a.m. when people start coming to work. Robert nodded. I will work hard. I promise. You better, the guard said. The last 3 janitors got fired. They were lazy. Don't be lazy. Robert started on the first floor. He mopped every inch of the floor until it shined like a mirror. He cleaned the bathrooms until they smelled like fresh lemons. He emptied every trash can, even the small ones under the desks. Hour after hour, floor after floor, Robert worked. His back hurt. His knees hurt. His hands turned red from the chemicals. But he did not stop. He thought about Sophie. He thought about buying her breakfast in the morning. That thought gave him strength. By 5 a.m., Robert had cleaned 19 floors. Only 1 floor left. The 20th floor. The top floor. This was where the CEO's office was. Robert took the elevator up. The 20th floor was beautiful. Expensive paintings on the walls. Thick carpets on the floor. Everything looked rich and important. But when Robert walked toward the CEO's office, he heard something strange. Sounded like crying. Robert stopped and listened carefully. Yes, someone was definitely crying inside that office. The door was slightly open. Robert slowly pushed it and looked inside. There, sitting at a huge wooden desk, was a young man. He could not be more than 25 years old. He wore an expensive suit, but his face was buried in his hands. He was sobbing like a child. Papers were scattered everywhere on the desk. Some had red stamps that said rejected and denied. Coffee cups were everywhere. The young man looked like he had not slept in days. Robert did not know what to do. Should he leave? Should he come back later? But something in his heart told him to stay. Robert quietly entered the room and started cleaning. He picked up the coffee cups. He straightened the papers. He did not say anything. He just cleaned. Suddenly, the young man looked up. His eyes were red and swollen from crying. He looked at Robert in his blue janitor uniform. I'm sorry, the young man said, quickly wiping his tears. I didn't know anyone was here. I thought I was alone. Robert stopped cleaning and looked at the young man. He saw something familiar in those sad eyes. He saw the same pain he felt when Maria died. The same fear he felt when he had no money for Sophie's food. Robert walked closer to the desk. He did not smile. He did not try to cheer the young man up with fake happiness. Instead, Robert spoke from his heart, using simple words that carried deep truth. It was a cold Monday morning in September 2023. The sun was just rising over the tall Williams Corporation building. Inside, something unusual was happening. The CEO's assistant was running through the hallways, knocking on every office door. "Emergency meeting. Everyone must come. Right now," she shouted. The employees looked at each other with worried faces. Emergency meetings were never good news. Was the company in trouble? Were people going to lose their jobs? Some employees grabbed their coffee cups with shaking hands. Others whispered nervously as they walked toward the main hall. "I heard the company is closing down," one woman said. "No, I think someone did something very wrong," another man replied. "Maybe we are all getting fired," a young employee said with fear in his voice. The main hall filled with over 300 employees. They sat in rows of chairs, waiting. The room was so quiet you could hear people breathing. Everyone's eyes were on the stage at the front of the hall. The big screen behind the stage was blank. The lights were bright. Then the side door opened. The CEO walked in. His name was James Williams. He was 55 years old, tall, with gray hair and a black suit. But today, something was different about him. His eyes were red. Had he been crying? James walked slowly to the microphone. He looked at all the faces staring at him. He took a deep breath. His hands were shaking a little. "Thank you all for coming," James said. His voice was soft and sad. "I called you here today because I need to tell you something very important. Something I should have told you many years ago." The employees leaned forward in their seats. What was happening? "This company has a mystery," James continued. "A mystery that has existed for 30 years. And today, I am going to reveal it to all of you." "A mystery?" People started whispering again. What kind of mystery could a company have for 30 years? James pulled out an old photograph from his pocket. He held it up, but it was too small for people to see clearly. "In this photograph," he said, "there are two people. One is me 30 years ago. I was only 25 years old. I was scared. I was alone. I was failing." He paused and looked down at the photograph. A tear rolled down his cheek. "The other person in this photo," James said, his voice breaking, "is the man who saved my life, the man who saved this company, the man who gave up everything and asked for nothing in return." The room was completely silent now. Who was this person? Why had nobody heard about him before? James wiped his eyes and looked back at the audience. This man worked in this building for 30 years. He walked these same halls. He was here before you arrived and after you left. But most of you never really saw him. You never knew his story. "Who is it?" someone shouted from the back. James smiled sadly. "You all know him. You have seen him 1,000 times. But you never knew who he really was." The employees looked at each other, confused. Who could it be? "This man holds the greatest mystery of Williams Corporation," James said. "And today, I need him here. I need all of you to see him, to know him, to understand what real sacrifice looks like." James turned to his assistant standing near the door. "Bring him in," he said quietly. "Bring me Robert. Bring me the janitor." The employees gasped. The janitor? What did the janitor have to do with anything? The door opened slowly. An old man walked in. He was 70 years old with white hair and dark skin. He wore his blue janitor uniform with his name tag on his chest. Robert. He carried his cleaning bucket in one hand, looking very confused. Robert walked slowly toward the stage. His old legs moved carefully. He looked around at all the employees staring at him. He looked at the CEO standing on the stage with tears in his eyes. "Sir," Robert said softly, "did I do something wrong? Why am I here?" James walked down from the stage. He walked right up to Robert. The tall CEO stood in front of the short janitor. And then, In front of 300 employees, the CEO did something shocking. James Williams, the powerful CEO, grabbed Robert's hand with both of his hands. Tears were streaming down his face. "Robert," James said, his voice shaking with emotion, "these people need to know the truth. They need to know the mystery. They need to know that you are not just a janitor. You are the hero of this company." Robert's eyes went wide. His mouth opened, but no words came out. The employees sat frozen in their chairs. What mystery could a simple janitor possibly hold? What had this old man done? And why was the CEO crying? The answers were about to change everything these employees thought they knew about success, sacrifice, and true greatness.